Hello and welcome back to building the customer testimonial section. This is getting easier and easier, don't you think so? So let's have some more fun with CSS. So this is where we left our website in the last lecture, and now let's start by adding a beautiful background image that is actually in the folder of our contents, in our project folder. So right here. So it will be a background image. So this image right now is here. It is called back customers, but since it will be a background image, it should be here inside our CSS folder. So as you remember, all our background images go right here into this folder. Okay, so now we're ready to use that image. So let's go back to our CSS file. And let's create some space down here. And you're already used to this by now. So let's start to define the code for this section. Section testimonials. So let's start by defining again a background image. Background image. And this is how we do it again. And back customers. Alright. So as before, we want this image to fill the whole width of the browser, so we say background size cover. So this is probably what you will always want to do with your images. So let's see the result of this. Alright, so this is way too bright, and it's the same situation as we had before on our header section. So we will once again make this image darker. And I hope you remember how we did that. So it's like setting multiple backgrounds here. So we have a gradient with a black opaque color and then the customer images. So we create a linear gradient. So as before, I will start with complete black and then change it with the color picker. And Command E. And let's set this to, let's say, 80%. And here the same exact thing. So 80%. This looks probably way better right now. Right. So now what we have to do is, of course, to make all the text inside of this white. And then, believe me, it will look great. So color and color white. And let's check it. Okay, this looks cool. Now I want to show you a very cool effect that you can achieve with background images in CSS. And I'm talking about this property. It is background attachment. And if we set this to fixed, then let me show you what this will look like. So it's like the image always stays in the same place, and we scroll our website and the image stays always on the same place. So I think this is a cool effect, and it's really easy to achieve. And in fact, we should do the same thing up here. Okay, so I will just copy this to the header CSS block just to see if it looks cool there as well. Okay, and this is the effect. So the image stays in the same place and we just scroll, and I think this is really cool. And down here it will look even cooler once we add more sections below this. So the next step would be to define these block quotes. elements right here. So this is very straightforward. Of course, just write our block quote selector. And the first thing is we maybe want some padding there, because you saw that the boxes were very close to each other. And I will say 2%. And then it is quite usual to show the customer testimonials in an italic style. So in order to do that, I will say font style italic. So, and I can do this only because I already incorporated the italic style for my Google fonts here. Okay, so whenever you need italics on your website, you need to include that web font. Now another thing is I want some line height here as always, and I will again choose 145% here. Okay, much better, right? And now we can format the site element and the images that are inside of the site element as well. So this is again very easy. We can do this because we will only use the site and the black quote elements in this place, so we don't need to make any class for those. So in here I would say that the font size could be a little smaller, like 90% maybe. And let's add some margin to the top as well. Margin top of, let's say, 25 pixels. And now for the image. So it's the image inside of the site. And by now you're already really familiar with all of that. So the image, I will say, will have a height of 50 pixels and a border radius of 50%. And yeah, you already know as well that this makes any element round. And we want some margin to the right side as well. Let me say here 10 pixels. So we made some changes here, so let me check it again. Okay, so what is going on here? We need a line break here. So here's the text, and then the text just continues with the image and then the rest of the text. Now the best way to actually do this is to define this as a block element, right? So what we can do is to say that the site element should be a block element. And so once more we use the display property with block. And this should do the job. Exactly. So this is what I hoped for. Now it's a block element, and so it is a line for itself. Now I want this text here to be aligned with this, and this is again very easy. We just say that we want some vertical align to the middle. And now it should look just as we want it. I think the images are a little too big, don't you think so? They take up too much space, I guess. Now what's also missing here is like a big quotation mark, which we can put here. And I will show you a great way to do this. And we will once again use the after zero class. No, in fact we will use the before, because this time we want it to appear before our text. So let's quickly do this. And first of all, let me change this. I said it was too big, so maybe 45 will work better. And now let's define the before zero class. So site before. And we want it to be a quotation mark. So remember, how do we put text on a website using just CSS? It is with content. The last time we used this, we didn't want to see any words, so we just leave an empty space. I will just to exemplify this, put an A, and we will then put a quotation mark in a second. But for now, let me just show you how this looks. And we'll also, in order that we can see it, change the font size here to 400%. Alright, this is not what I wanted, because I actually wanted it before the block quote, right? So it is block quote. And here we go. Alright, now in order to put the quotation mark there is not as easy as it may sound, because in order to do that we need to use something called an ISO special character. So this here is a list that I will include into the course ebook, and in here we can just choose some sign that we want, and then we will have to copy this very code here. So in order to make it easier for me, I will just search for quotation mark, and this is not the one that I want. It's this one right here. I want this. So I need to copy this code right here. Alright, and I will now paste it here. So let's check this. Alright, here we go. Cool, right? Now we need to have this in a new line once again, so we have to make this as a block element. So let's do that. Display block. Very easy. Now, in order to position this exactly where we want it, we need to define its top and left attributes, because it is really the easiest way is to change this around using absolute positioning. So position absolute, and then we can change its top, maybe, I don't know, 5 pixels, and the left to 0. Alright, and before we can see how this looks, there's a very important thing that we have to do, and it's this. When we make a element with absolute position, we have to ensure that its parent has an relative position. So in this case we will have to say this here is relative, and if we didn't do this, this wouldn't appear where we want it. And here we go. Okay, this is way too close to the text, so let it put back to 0 maybe, but we can put the left to -3, for instance. Let me see this. Yeah, this looks cool. Maybe what I should do is to give it some space between this line here and those block quotes. So in order to have more space for this one here, this quotation mark, and I should probably also do this a little bigger. So I'll increase this to 500% actually, and then I will say that we want some margin to the top of this of 40 pixels. And this can actually be also, let's say, -5 pixels. And here -5 pixels as well wouldn't hurt. And this is what it looks like now. So now we have one more section designed. And I really like what we achieved here in this section. This background image is really cool, and also this effect that we added to this section and to this one is really cool. We're starting to get a really good looking website. So next up we have the section with some pricing plans, where we will use some new stuff. So don't wait, and see you there.